Okay, JavaScript HTML DOM APIs. So these are the set of topics we are going to cover. We are going to take a look at HTML DOM objects, and one of those objects are window object, which is in fact root object of that DOM tree. And we'll take a look at document object, and which is the property of window object. And we'll take a look at JavaScript DOM APIs, and we are going to see how we can handle events on those DOM elements, and we'll take a look at form handling and event object. Okay. Alright, so these are the set of topics we are going to cover. As I said, these are pretty straightforward concepts. HTML DOM objects. So HTML DOM defines a standard set of objects for HTML, and it also provides a standard way to access and manipulate HTML elements. So all HTML elements, along with their containing text and attributes, can be accessed and manipulated through this DOM. And the contents also could be modified and deleted, and you can also add new elements as well. And HTML DOM is platform and language independent, so you could use HTML DOM APIs in HTML DOM in many different languages: Java, JavaScript, and Visual Basic Script. In general, I'd like to actually say first, before we move on, HTML DOM APIs are pretty low-level APIs. So in practice, you're not going to use HTML DOM APIs directly. Instead, you are going to highly likely to use high-level library from just such as a jQuery, probably most of the cases, and there are other JavaScript libraries such as the Dojo, Prototype, and things like that. So you're mostly using jQuery-based APIs, which are higher level APIs than these low-level HTML DOM APIs. Okay, but it's good to know these APIs as well. Okay, so DOM object. So you could have anchor object, document object, event object, and form input direct object, and the frame set, iframe object, image object, location object, navigate object, and yeah, it looks like I have another slide here. I have to remove it. And option and select object. By the way, the point is that we are in this code camp, we are going to mostly focus on important DOM objects, and those are marked with this star. So document object and event object, and form input object. So those are the ones that we are going to mostly spend our time. Okay. And option and select object, screen object, and table header, table row, table data objects, and window object. So window object is again a root object of the page of the DOM tree. Okay, so let's move on to window object. So basically, when your page is loaded, all those elements are captured as an object, JavaScript object. Okay, and now we're going to take a look at window object first. So window object represent the window, the page, browser page, and this is the global JavaScript object in a browser, as we have learned yesterday. Okay, so global object contains all global variables and functions defined as its properties. So when you actually see the page, as we talked about yesterday. Okay, so let's see which this was probably. So this is the these functions are defined in global scope, meaning these are the properties of this global object. In this case, when you are using browser, the browser has a window object, which is the global object, and that global object have these two guys as properties. Okay, and also if you have a var x, something like that. This X is also a property of this window global object. Okay, so that's something we covered yesterday. So properties of window object also include a lot more that we haven't covered. So document is one of those properties of window object. So that's the reason you should be able to actually use documents as it is. So you can say, I can say document write hello world, something like that. Okay. Because this is the same thing as a this, and this is same thing as window. Okay, because when you are just using documents, assume that you are actually using the global object. Okay, in this case window. Okay, Okay, so document is one of the properties, and so you can actually say document write hello or window document write hello and things like that. It also has inner height and inner width of the page. And the window object also has methods. So these are the properties. The document is a property, which happen to be a function object as a value, which contains a function object as a value, and inner height and inner width. Those are properties. So window object also has methods. So method include alert, prompt, and resize and close. So these are all methods that you could use from those window objects. So you can say, that's the reason you could say here alert, hello, something like that, okay? Because this is a method from window objects. Again, you can say this, okay, because this in the global scope representing window, or you can say window alert, something like that, okay? All right, so window object has a bunch of the properties and methods. So let's take a look at some of these methods, and we already talked about alert, right? So there are several user interaction methods that are available for you to use. So alert is something that we just talked about, okay? So user will have a click OK to proceed. And confirm, if you want to have OK or cancel option to the user, if you want to give that option to the user, then you can use confirm, okay? Prompt is user will either have to click either OK or cancel to proceed after entering input value. So prompt is prompting a user to enter something, and you can also specify default value. Okay. All right. So we can actually do these things in the hands-on lab. Okay. The window object methods and properties. So this in global scope represent that window object. Okay, so you can you can certainly display what this is, and it will display window. Okay, so user interaction methods we learned in previous slides. So you can use alert. This is same as alert without this dot, and confirm and prompt. Okay. And you can access document object through document property of window object. So this document.write. So document object contains the document is a property, and it contains document object is let's see, document object is, oh yeah, so document object is it has its own properties, and one of the property of document object is write, which contains a function, which is actually a function object. That's the reason you're actually being able to call write hello world. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now let's take a look at exercise 1. So for those of you who have who are attending JPassion.com code camp first time as of today, basically you have to go to JPassion.com, log in your paying membership, and go to JavaScript and jQuery programming course number 13, and you are going to download this lab, and then you're going to unzip the lab, and then there is index.html file, which is the documentation. So I'm going to just read the documentation, and we're going to do exercise 1. So, and then we are going to open, you're going to open the lab documentation using brackets. So I have done that already. So I'm going to actually open window object HTML file, this guy. Okay, so we are going to run it. Okay, so yeah, so it pops up with some text, and okay. And this is so the previous one is alert, this is prompt, and then this is oh, so I'm sorry, the previous one is confirm, this is prompt. Okay, so life is good, and either you can say okay or cancel. Okay, so I say okay. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. So we have we are gonna take a look at, yeah, so if you do this, we should actually see the window. Yeah, so this is you can see this is the window. Okay, yeah, okay, you can see this is window, and then we should be able to access, we should be able to call hello world write method of document object, and then we should be able to display hello world. Okay, so that's what we have seen here. And now what we want to do is for window object, we like to actually see all the properties and methods. Okay, so if you go down over here, you are going to see, in fact, document is one of the properties. Okay, so let's take a look at the if you just expand it, document is one of the oh, document might be actually document. Where is a document? Oh, right here. Okay, so you can see document is one of the properties. Okay, and the value of document is in fact the document object. Okay, and then you should have in fact the write method. It could be either from here or it could be from prototype. Okay, so I'm going to search for write. Oh, why it doesn't find? I think let me actually go over here, and okay, so yeah, so the we should be able to, yes, because it's alert and confirm, we should be able to actually see alert and confirm. Okay, so let's actually take a look at that one. Alert, yeah, it's actually from the prototype window, and this is document. Where do we actually see? Okay, so let me just search for alert. Oh, here you go. Okay, alert right here, and then let's actually take a look at the prompt. Yeah. Prompt. Yeah, so this is a prompt. Okay, so those are the methods that you can use. Okay, so I'm gonna give you maybe a few minutes to try this exercise. In the meantime, I'm gonna actually take care of a couple of. So let's move forward. So we just learned about the window objects. Let's move on. Document object. So HTML, a document object represents HTML document. It is container of head and body object, and it contains methods such as write, and it contains methods such as get element by ID, get element by name, and it also has properties, anchors, character set, child nodes, and things like that. Okay. So if you want to write some text, you are going to use a write method. And you can also provide the HTML fragment, which contains, in this example, h1, the element. You can use a get element by ID, and you provide ID of an element. Okay, so here we have h1 element whose ID is set as my header. So if you call get element by ID, providing ID, then it will return an object representing this h1 element. Okay. Get elements by name. So here ID has to be unique. However, the name does not have to be unique. So we have in fact 3 different input elements which contains the same name. So here get elements by name. So it could return multiple elements. Okay, so here the variable x in fact references an array of 3 items. So if you want to see the length of it, we can say x.length, and it should actually display in this case 3 elements. In HTML, so if you want to get the contents of a particular element, you can actually use inner HTML. So suppose we have three anchor, first, second, and third, and each of these anchor has these the text as values, and this internal text will be captured as inner HTML. So if I want to get an access to the first anchor, I can use this bracket notation. So index 0 is representing this guy first. Index 1 will represent this second one. So basically, I'm going to get the first anchor, so this element, and then I want to get inner HTML, meaning this content. So that is basically returning, in this case, first anchor. Okay. Access an item in a collection, so you could use this bracket notation as we have seen in previous slide. So in this case, we have two form element, right? Form 1 and form 2. And so in order to get an access to the first one, we are going to use a bracket with the index of 0, and then we can get the name property of it, so it should return form 1. Okay. You can also use if these two elements have a different IDs, and then we can also use get element by ID as well. So in this case, it will return form element with a particular ID, form 1, and again, we could get the name value of it, which is form 1. Okay, so let's take a look at exercise 2. So again, these are pretty straightforward things, so we're gonna actually move a bit faster on this. Okay, so document write. So if you go to document write, and you can see it's representing HTML document, and so console there. So if you inspect document object, okay, you can see the write is actually the one of the it has a prototype, which is in fact the pointing HTML document object, and that contains a write method here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to actually move forward with more presentation, and then I'll let you have time to do the lab exercise 2 and 3 together. DOM APIs. Okay, so as I said, hold a second, let me just so these are DOM API examples using document. Document has this method: get element by ID, get element by name, form, and in HTML. And you can also actually get anchors, the array and elements array, and then you can also get the property of HTML. Okay, so as I said before, you are not going to use these low-level APIs in your JavaScript code. Mostly likely, you are going to use JavaScript libraries such as jQuery to do these kind of things. Okay, so but this is actually useful to know. Inner HTML. So each HTML element has an inner HTML property that defines both the HTML code and the text that occurs between that element's opening and ending tag. So this is something we took a look as well, right? So here we can assign, so we can get the reference to my greeting ID element, and then we can actually set inner HTML by doing this. Okay, so basically we are just inserting good day as a text on that particular element. Okay, so exercise 3, DOM APIs. So we are exercising get element by ID. So here we are going to get my header element right here, and then basically all you do is that we just get the name of the tag. Okay, so when the this is a function. Okay, so when this h1 element is clicked, then we're going to invoke it, and we're going to just display alert message. Okay, pretty straightforward. We just click this guy, and you're going to see I am h1 element. Get elements by name. So in this case, we have 3 input elements with the same name, my input. So this one should return 3 because we have 3 input elements. Okay, and 3 elements. And element collection. So this is the same code that we have seen. So we're going to just move forward. And in HTML, and you can inspect the element in HTML as well. In HTML with the anchors, so something that we have seen in the slide. Okay, yeah. So since these are pretty straightforward and the pretty low level API, I'm actually moving a bit faster than usual. So I'm going to give you maybe 10 minutes to try exercise 2 and 3. Okay. Okay, event handling. So every element on a web page has certain set of events that could be associated with it, and it will trigger invocation of JavaScript based event handlers. Okay. So you are going to actually use attribute like an on-click attribute to insert the handler to this HTML element. So example of these events could be mouse click, a web page, or image loading, mouse over hotspot on the web page, and selecting an input box in HTML form, submitting HTML form, or keystroke, and things like that. Okay. Okay, so these are the set of built-in events. Okay, so on abort, loading an image is interrupted. On blur, so element loses focus. So if you move your mouse around, that particular element either get the focus or not get the focus. Okay. On change, the contents of a field changes. On click is something that we have seen many times. Mouse click on an object. On double click. On error. An error occurs when loading a document or an image. On focus, on key down. We're going to mostly focus on the ones that are in blue colored in this lab. And on key pass, key up, and on load, and a page or image is finishes loading. Mouse down, mouse move, mouse out, mouse over, mouse up. Reset, resize, select, on submit. So we'll actually select a few to play around. Okay. Again, these events and event handlers are very low level, and again, it's highly unlikely you are going to use these things directly in your code. You are going to again use high level JavaScript libraries for handling events. Okay. So on load and on upload events are triggered when the user enters or leaves page. Yeah, one of the, in fact, the best practice guideline in JavaScript code is that you do not want, in fact, embedded the JavaScript code in your HTML page. Okay, so that is, in fact, one of the principal design guideline in unobtrusive JavaScript code. Okay, especially taking advantage of HTML5. So that's something that we might actually cover sometime in this code camp if you guys are interested. Here we are just assuming that these we are just learning these are available, but the usage of these things are in fact strongly discouraged because you are making kind of spaghetti code, mixing up JavaScript code and your HTML with your HTML. The tags are strongly discouraged. Anyway, so assuming you guys are aware of those pitfalls, let's just move on. So onload and unload, and onload event is often used to check the visitor's browser type and browser version. So basically, when document is loaded, then you want to actually check whether the browser version and the type, and then you might in fact to do something differently if there are some browser incompatibilities. So in fact, there was a question that was asked about 10 minutes ago. In old versions of the browsers, there are in fact quite a bit of incompatibilities among browser types, and even among browser versions. So in some cases, you take the responsibility actually providing different behavior depending on the type of the browser and depending on the version of the browser. And in fact, that's the primary reason, one of the primary reasons why people wanted to use JavaScript libraries such as a jQuery, because those libraries in fact insulated you from the differences of these browsers. Okay. These days modern browsers have much less problem in terms of incompatibility, so that is in fact less an issue, but I still want to use high level JavaScript libraries from the ease of development standpoint. Okay, on focus, on blur, and on change. So focus is basically on focus, on blur, on change. So in this case, when email, so on change is that when content of a particular, in this case, input field is changed, then you want to invoke check email. event handler. Right? So in this case, you might in fact perform some kind of validation. Okay, so this is on blur. So when the this text is the on blur, basically you are going to call uppercase. You are going to call uppercase method, and we get element with this fname ID, and we get the value, and then we are going to convert into the uppercase, and then we set it into value. Okay, pretty straightforward example. On mouse over and mouse out. Okay, so here we are going to, when the mouse is over, then we want to just display alert message. Okay, moving forward. So that is exercise 4. So let's take a look at exercise 4. Oops. So on click. So we're going to actually try on click on 2 examples of on click, on blur, and then on focus and on submit with a validation, and on mouse event, on mouse down event, and explore other events on your own. Okay, so let's just choose maybe on click event. On click event 2. So let's just try. So something in the box, whatever, type it and click, and you type. So basically when when it is clicked, it calls the test result, and we get the value of that input box. So input box is the name. Input box, this is so this is the form, and input box is the name. Okay, this guy. Okay, and then you can get the value of it, and then we just display the value. Okay, so pretty straightforward. So as long as you just run the code and see how things work, that should be good enough. Okay. If you can do some of your for your own exercise, that'll be good as well. So this is on focus, and this is the validation. Okay, so this is the validation. So let's take a look at on submit validation. On submit validation. So we get email, age, and fname, and then so when action and on submit. So validate. So when you actually have on submit, you can actually return true or false from this validate method. So basically what you want to do is that you perform the validation, and if the validation fails, you do not want to submit it, right? In that case, you should return false. So if the validate method return false, then this form will not be submitted, okay, to this action. Okay, if it returns true, then it will be submitted. Okay, so we call validate method, and depending on the value, if the file name fname is length is not if it is not if it is greater than 10, this is set to false. Right? So basically, if it is not age, if the age is not a number, and if age is less than 1 and greater than 100, again we do not want to submit. So we perform a very rudimentary validation, and whenever validation fails, we just return false. Okay, all right. So that is for that 5. And on mouse down event, and on mouse down event 2. Okay, so these are pretty straightforward things, and you can certainly take a look at events on this page as well. So these are the events that you can actually play around. Okay, all right, so I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this exercise. Oops. So form handling. So on submit event occurs when the submit button in a form is checked. Okay, is clicked, I meant. So this is a form element, name of the form, action, basically when it is submitted, it will be submitted to this URL. Typically it's going to be remote URL, like using the URL HTTP address, but it could be a local file as well. And on submit, so when this form is submitted, it will call greeting event handler. Okay, so again, in greeting event handler could return true or false. If it returns true, then it will be submitted. If it returns false, then it will not be submitted. Okay? Input type submit, this is basically when you can click to submit. On submit with the validation, so this is something I just talked about as well. So typically you want to validate whatever you just typed in before submitting that form. So typically on submit, you are going to have the validation method, and this validation method again could return true or false depending on the result of the validation. Okay. Yeah, so this is basically another example. So on submit, it calls a validate method and return true or false based on validation result. You can also do validation with a regular expression as well. So basically regular expression, I'm sure most of you know what regular expression is all about. So regular expression in JavaScript is an object that describes a pattern of characters. And so you can use regular expression to see whether whatever you just typed in fact compliant with the pattern that you want to use for validation. Okay. So there are two ways for creating regular expression, using literal syntax like this, and you can also use regular expression constructor. Okay, and then you provide a pattern like this. Okay, and then you get the expression, the object. And then you can call test method and exec method. So test method takes one argument, a string, and checks whether that string contains a match of the pattern specified in the regular expression. So if it returns true, that means it contains a match, and otherwise there is no match. Exec method takes one argument, a string, and checks whether the string contains one or more matches of the pattern specified by the regular expression. And if one or more matches is found, it returns a result array with the starting point of the matches. And if no match is found, then match returns null. So it actually returns the array of matches. And this one, test, it returns true or false to see whether there is in fact a match or not. Okay, so this is an example. So we have social security number regular expression. So this is the pattern. You're using pattern literal, and we can actually inspect regular expression object, and then basically we are going to use the test method, and the SSN is whatever you just typed in, and then we check whether a correct social security pattern is matched or not. Okay, an example. Okay, so let's take a look at form handling exercise 5. Okay, so this is a simple example. So this is a form element, and on submit greeting, and this is greeting, and only thing we do is just alert the message. Okay, and then we submit, and it will display dummy.html file. Okay, so submit something, and then this is the dummy page. Okay, so if it is not returning anything, if it doesn't return false, then it's considered as a true, and it will submit the form. So that's the reason we're actually seeing this dummy page, dummy HTML. Form submit validation. So this is the case that we are performing validation. So here we have a form, and this is the destination page, and we are calling return validate method, and it will get name. It will prompt the user to enter name and age and email, and then in this validation method, we are going to check whether name is greater than 10. Okay, if it is greater than 10, it is invalid. Okay, so name length should be less than 10. This one, age, is checking whether age is in fact a number or not. If age field contains non-number like alphabetic characters, then it is again invalid. Okay, and age also has to be between 1 and 100. Okay, inclusive. Okay. And email. So basically, so we just, the only thing we check is whether email contains @ sign or not. Okay, so you're not using regular expression in this case. Okay, all right. So that is basically validation. And this is the case that you are using the expression, regular expression. So this is a social security regular expression. This is an email regular expression. Okay. All right, so you can just try things out and see whether it's behaving as expected. Okay, so this is the valid case, right? Okay. All right, form submit reset. So in this case, so we are going to on submit event occurs when the submit button is clicked. Okay, so return validate and valid view. Yeah, it's a few examples. Okay, and so this is reset form. So when you click the reset form, it will be just reset into the default values. Right? Okay, so those are pretty straightforward, and I'll give you 10 minutes to try exercise 5. Zoom. Okay, next one is event object. So what, event object is basically whenever there is an event, you can find out where that particular event occurs. For example, when the mouse down event occurs, we can get that event information through event. Okay, so you can certainly pass event to your event handler. So basically, you can get the coordinates of that particular event on that on the page. Okay, so we can get the x coordinate and the y coordinate. And what is the Unicode of the key passed? So again, you can find out the Unicode of the key that was pressed. Okay, so in this case, on key up, and we can find out Unicode of that key, and which element was clicked. So on mouse down, we can get the event, and we can actually check whether the event and we can actually find out the target. Okay, and we can find out if target is available, then we can get the target here, else is source element, and we can even actually find out the node type. That is in fact the node type. This we are basically using constant value and things like that. So this is pretty low level things. Which event type occurred? So here we can find out the this is probably on mouse down event type. Okay, so that is exercise 6. Okay, so this is a coordination, and when you display the x and y coordinate, you are going to see these values. And Unicode, yeah, I should say Unicode, not Unicode. So these are the Unicode for the mouses that are pressed, and this is event object. So yeah, we can find out the in this case, this is mouse down. So somewhere in the document, I'm not sure exactly what this is all about. Event object, which element? Let's take a look at that event object. So let's try this. Oh, okay. You clicked IMG element. This one is P element, and this one is H. Yeah, depending on where you are clicking it. Yeah. So if I click here, it says I clicked body element. If I click this guy, I click the IMG element. And yeah, so basically we are going to yeah, so basically we get the event, and we basically get the target of it, and the target information is, if it is, yeah, so this one, I think that's basically what it actually displays everything, and these things are not really actually being worked on. Okay, so let's see whether that is in fact the case. So I am going to let me just comment this guy out, save the change, and see whether that behaves exactly the same. Okay, all right, yeah, so that works the same. So yeah, so these 4 lines of code are not really doing anything. Okay, so this is event type. So when you click this guy, if you click this guy, and you're going to see this is a mouse down, okay, so yeah, so you can take a look at the type of it. Okay, all right, so pretty, again, straightforward. And all right, so I'll give you a few minutes to try the exercise 6, and let's see if there is anything else. Okay, that's it. So I'll give you a few minutes to finish this up. Let's just